Good morning and welcome to all of you. My name is Laurel Sepla-Etra and I serve as chair of the worship team, and today I will be one of your worship leaders. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. I want to take a moment to extend a very warm welcome to everyone. If you are joining us online, fill out a visitor form in the link in the description. We'd love to connect with you. Some of us are bringing our best selves to this space, and some of us are bringing our struggling selves. All of us are welcome here, and all of us are loved. Some of us already have open hearts, and some of us aren't quite there yet, because our hearts have gotten a little beat up this week and might have forgotten how to trust and open. Your heart is welcome here, no matter how bruised. We welcome you among us. All of us are imperfect, but we're here to drop our defenses and trust that what happens in worship is powerful and life-giving. Together, we affirm that this day and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser than when we woke up this morning. We welcome you here. I'm delighted to once again welcome Reverend Lydia Ferrante-Roseberry as our guest speaker this morning. She is the former minister of the Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Lafayette, and currently working as an organizer with Together Colorado, a statewide, faith-based organization dedicated to placing human dignity at the center of public life. Reverend Lydia is a certified interplay leader as well, an embodied spirituality practice that brings body, mind, and spirit together in playful ways. There'll be two announcements today. First of all, from the Climate Action Ministry, during coffee hour, there will be postcard writing. Millions of Environment First registered voters do not actually vote. Please stop by, take 3 minutes to write a postcard, and make a donation to the Environmental Voter Project. And now I will have Emily come up for an announcement.
I'm going to be greedy and make 3 announcements. The first is that if you were not here last week, we are in the process of a very long and exuberant welcome to Austin Skeffington, who is our new collaborative pianist. Austin is a recent grad of the jazz program at CU Boulder and is gigging all around the area. He plays jazz piano, indie rock, all kinds of fabulous things. He coordinated a big band evening of music for one of his capstone projects and has experience with music technology and recording and is just a fantastic addition to our developing music ministry. His full bio was in a recent edition of The Messenger, if you didn't get a chance to check that out. And he'll officially start with us at the beginning of the new church year, and we're just lucky enough that we could sneak him in these couple Sundays to get to know us and the ways that things work here. We have a very musical day because, in fact, we are celebrating the birthday of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. You may have heard of it. So at coffee hour, we will be celebrating with a couple beautiful cakes that Scott picked up for us. And we are having a summer jam session. So we've picked out a bunch of tunes. Becky Root has been fantastic and has made a bunch of lead sheets for those of you who play melody instruments. We've got chord charts. If you're like, I forgot my ukulele or whatever, that's totally fine. Come sing a couple songs with us, eat your cake, have a good time. It's just about making music together in some less formal ways, so don't be shy. And we're gonna do this a couple times throughout the coming year. There's one coming up in November at Community Night and one in the spring. So if you're thinking that might be something you'd work yourself up to for later in the year, this might be a nice time to just kind of cast an eye on what happens at a jam session and see if you can picture yourself there in the coming year. So we hope that we'll see you there.
Well, it is a real treat to be here with you 2 weeks in a row. Just as I was sitting there next to Emily, who I have known for a little bit of time, as her husband is the music director of my former congregation, I was just reveling in, I have always really appreciated the warmth of this congregation over the many years that I have been acquainted with you. Last week, I invited you to consider deepening your conversations, your relationships with people that you don't know very well, stretching yourselves to engage more deeply into public discourse and public life. This week, we will move into what inevitably happens when we take risks in our relationships. At some point or another, either we say something that upsets someone, or someone else does that to us. In either case, learning how to make amends is an essential tool that I'd say not many of us are taught very well. With that backdrop, I offer you these opening words from the Irish poet, author, and priest John O'Donohue in his book, To Bless the Space Between Us. When we live in the world, we always live in distance. Often the greatest distance is not physical, but mental. Often the nature of one's mind is what separates us most from one another. This is also the emotional distance. When some hurt or wound constructs a wall between friends. In the west of Ireland, we share an interesting phrase, I have fallen out with someone. Once the bond of togetherness and kinship is broken, you fall out of it. That is, you fall into distance again. Though distance can have many forms of separation, it will never be spiritual. One can still continue to remain close in spirit to the distanced one. We do, however, often linger in the crippling states of anger and resentment. Hurt is always unfair and unexpected. It can leave a bitter residue that poisons the space between us. Eventually, the way forward is forgiveness. We tend to see forgiveness as the willingness to see beyond what has been done to us, and it is. But the gift of forgiveness is also a gift to us. When we forgive, we free ourselves.
Our opening hymn this morning is one of many beautiful gifts that we have been left in our Unitarian Universalist heritage by the fantastic songwriter Shelley Jackson Denham. And in getting ready for the service this week, I stumbled across the origin story of this song. In addition to her fantastic musical gifts, Shelley Jackson Denham was also really passionate about the importance of intergenerational community and intentionally welcoming people of all ages into our spaces of faith. And so When I Am Frightened is about the ways that we model behavior for one another. While Shelley Jackson Denham was originally thinking about young people and how they learn from the adults around them, I think it's true for all of us. And as Reverend Lydia is inviting us again this week to consider the ways that we are in relationship with each other, it's in the ways that we live our values, share time with one another, and be present in relationships that we are not only living our values, but also modeling those for the people that we come in contact with. So I hope you'll rise in body or spirit and join us in singing number 1012, When I Am Frightened.
Will you hold my hand? Will
this is a story about a town that had a little learning to do in the area of love and commitment and forgiveness. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So in a faraway land long, long ago, a wise old woman who knew a great deal about people traveled the land. And the reason she knew a great deal about people was she traveled the land from place to place to place. But she came across a very strange village. In this town, all the people were carrying what seemed to be big bundles on their backs. And they were so heavy, these bundles, that the people couldn't even look around very well. They were just hunched over, and they never looked up because of all the heavy burdens that they carried. The wise woman was quite puzzled, and she stopped one of these people, a young man, and she said, "Excuse me, can you please help me understand? Why are you carrying all these bundles on your head, on your back?" And the man said, "Well, it's because these are our grudges." And the wise woman looked at the man and said, "You look awfully young to have quite so many grudges." But the man said, "Oh, no, these aren't all mine. These have been passed along for generations in our families. You see that one over there? That person's great-great-grandfather called my great-great-grandfather a horse thief when they were both running for mayor." The wise woman looked around and said, "But you all look so unhappy. Isn't there any way to get rid of these burdens?" And the young fellow said, "No, we've forgotten how. At first, we were pretty proud of all the grudges we held, and we were almost a tourist attraction. People would come from all over to watch us, humped over, not engaged with each other. But that stopped, and now we're just a sad, sad town." Well, the wise woman said, "I think I can help you. I think I have something very simple but courageous that could help you." And the young man said, "I'll go call the mayor, and we'll gather all the villagers together." So the villagers all came. The mayor was very excited and said, "Here's a wise woman who says she knows how we can relieve ourselves of our grudges." So the wise woman spoke and said, "I have some words, 5 words that you could say to each other. And if you say these 5 words, your grudges will disappear. Come closer." The first 2 words are, "I'm sorry." And the other 3 are, "I forgive you." Now say these words to each other. And then miraculously, what happened? Those grudges flew off of the backs of all the people in the village. And they stood up straight, and they got to look around, and they got to see how tall the trees had grown and look into each other's eyes. And they were so excited, and their lives were transformed. And thereafter, the mayor of the town named the town Joy Town.
Our flaming chalice is the symbol. I'm sorry. Oh, the children have to go.
The children have to go. If you're going to religious education this morning, you can follow me and Becky out.
Sorry, that wasn't in my script. Any other children want to go? Any children of all ages? Go on. Okay. Our flaming chalice is a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. It suggests perhaps that within our separate selves burns a flame of unity, connection, and compassion. Once felt, that fire cannot be extinguished, and so we gather, weaving our lives together. I'd like to invite Len Ackland to light this morning's chalice.
Good morning. My name is Len Ackland, and I'm a member of the board-appointed building design team doing legwork for our planned building expansion. I'd like to tell you a little about why this project is important to me. My contact with Unitarian Universalism began in 1979 when I was a Chicago Tribune reporter and living in the suburb of Oak Park with my wife and 3 young children. One day, my 6-year-old son came home crying, "Matt told me I'm going to hell because I don't go to church." Matt was his friend from a nice evangelical family down the street. Although my late wife and I were progressive agnostics, we decided that our kids needed to know they were part of a larger community which shared our values. Enter Third Unitarian Church of Chicago, a welcoming place with aesthetic stained glass windows and large, colorful mosaics hanging on the walls. There were portraits of Buddha, Jesus, Harriet Tubman, Socrates, and Jane Addams, among others. The sermons were inspiring, the piano music outstanding, and the congregation fascinating. And the sanctuary space lifted my spirits. That's how I felt the first time I came here in 2017 for a friend's memorial service. This space was familiar, comfortable, with its stained glass, creative shape. I was then attracted to this community of good people bravely providing sanctuary for Ingrid and family. And I was stimulated by the sermons, enriched by the services, and moved by the music. I love this space, which lifts my spirits. But as we know, it has limited capacity for seating and other issues. An inviting, beautiful, functional green space where we gather together is important to me, which is why I volunteered to be part of our ambitious building expansion process. As we go forward, it will be fun for all of us to share our various visions about what to build, which will depend, of course, on our resources. An architect and contractor will help turn our dreams into reality. While all this fun is happening, the building design team will also be dealing with less glamorous issues, such as annexation to the city of Boulder from the county enclave where we're located. That's needed for us to tie into the city water system. This project is going to be quite an exciting, challenging adventure. I light this chalice to symbolize the illumination we'll all need to ensure our success. Uh-oh. There's barely a flame there. Ah, that worked.
We are not bound together by a creed, a specific list of things we all believe exactly the same way. We are united by shared values expressed in our 7 principles and by the commitments we make to each other about what creates this community. To name that commitment, will you join together in person and online, standing or in spirit, speak our covenant aloud as one? We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it.
I invite you to begin paying attention to your own breath. The breath is the gift, something you have not merited or earned, just something that comes with the gift of life. It's a gift of your existence, which connects you to the breathing earth and to the pulsing universe. Take a few more moments to connect to your breath. John O'Donohue writes, "A blessing is a circle of light drawn around a person to protect, heal, and strengthen." Who might need your blessing in this moment? A friend, a family member, a neighbor, a world leader. Bring them to mind. Offer them a blessing to protect, heal, and strengthen them. Imagine those that are around us right now in this space, either physically here or also those online. Imagine blessing even those with whom you may have some distance, some grudges to release. Imagine drawing a circle of light around everyone. And finally, offer yourself a blessing. Offer yourself a circle of light to protect and heal and strengthen you for whatever the days ahead hold. May we recognize both the blessings that we are, the gifts that we are, and our capacity to offer blessing to others. And now, as we move into our joys and sorrows ritual, I invite you to bring to mind those things for which you are grateful or joyful. And bring to mind then those things for which you grieve or have concerns about or worry about. For all of the joys and concerns that are in our hearts, we hold this compassionate space of love. For those in person, I invite you to come forward as you feel so moved, starting with the back of the room and then the sides by the windows and then the front. And then silently take a stone and place it into the earth to symbolize your joys or your cares, taking their place in a larger whole, mingling with each other, held in the hand of the earth.
A song from one of our wisest singer-songwriters from 48 years ago, and we still need the reminder. You can play the game and you can act out the part, you know it wasn't written for you. Tell me, how can you stand there with your broken heart, ashamed of playing the fool? One thing can lead to another. It doesn't take any sacrifice. Oh, father and mother and sister and brother, if it feels nice, don't think twice. Just shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Do as I say. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. You can run, but you cannot hide. This is widely known. Now what you plan to do with your foolish pride when you're all by yourself alone? Once you tell somebody the way that you feel, you can feel it beginning to ease. I think it's true what they say about the squeaky wheel always getting the grease. Better to shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. I know things are gonna be just fine if you only will. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Everybody, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Kind of made my day. So wouldn't it be great if it was as easy as 5 simple words? I'm sorry, the next person says, I forgive you, and then it's Joytown? Any of us who've ever had teenagers or else gotten ourselves into that teenage state know that there's also a lot to say about the tone. Sorry. Without any, sound familiar, Amy? Without any real intention to change is not really worthy of an I forgive you. Saying one is sorry is not the same as making amends, repairing the wrong, and showing that you are willing to change. I almost didn't want to simplify this difficult topic so much with the story of Grudgeville, but the image of how we are so burdened down by our grudges was too much to pass up. And obviously the burdens go both ways. The person who is harmed carries real pain and betrayal, whether physical or psychological. And the person who did the harm is also in spiritual pain, distanced. They may be in a state of shame where they're willing to acknowledge to themselves the pain they've caused but don't know what to do about it, or in a state of denial, which equally takes an emotional toll. Both of these states separate us from one another. The fear of being burdened by causing harm to another or having harm caused to us is often what keeps us apart, what keeps us talking about the weather instead of what really matters in our lives. And in polarized times, and around the challenging topics like racism or other forms of oppression, or wherever there are power differentials, which actually there always are, conversations can get even more fraught. So I'm sorry to tell you that unless you live under a rock, there's no way around it. You will get hurt by the words and deeds of others, by people close to you, and even people you do not personally know who have power. And you will hurt others by your words and deeds. People close to you, and even people you do not personally know. But somehow, we have to figure out how to continually live together, and hopefully without too much baggage weighing us down, limiting our capacity to look into each other's eyes. Now, I have to say that unfortunately, in the many years I've been a Unitarian Universalist, I have found our tradition short on theologies of confession and repair. Both Unitarians and Universalists rejected a judging God. Maybe you've heard this quip. Because the Universalist felt God was too good to judge them, and the Boston elite Unitarians felt that they were too good to be judged by God. Now, of course, repentance and renewal of relationship is so much more than being judged by the vengeful God that many of us have rejected. It's about what happens between us, which is where I happen to see God playing out in the world. But our Unitarian Universalist traditions and theologies are so very steeped in the culture of this country that it's no surprise that we are shy on forgiveness rituals. In her book on repentance and repair, Making Amends in an Unapologetic World, Rabbi Danya Ruttenberg shares some historical reasons why this nation in particular struggles to make amends when harm is caused. First, she says, is our individualism, born out of the Enlightenment. It just gets in our way. Cultures that tend toward collectivism have stronger practices of repair, research shows. But we've got that rugged individualism baked right into our country's narrative. It both makes it hard for us to recognize our wrongs, as well as for us to reach out compassionately when we have an energy of pick yourself up from your bootstraps. If you get harmed, that's yours to deal with. Second, what Rabbi Ruttenberg calls the watered-down, secularized distortion of Protestant thinking. So Catholic indulgences, the Protestants came rejecting the Catholic indulgences, which meant you could kind of do something, buy your way out of your sins, of your transgressions. So the Protestants focused on belief alone as enough for divine salvation. But in that, they left out accountability. And I think that's where we get some of that intention versus impact that we're needing to understand now. It's not just enough to believe you haven't wronged. If you have wronged, you need to own that and make amends. Finally, and this was so fascinating to me, in our country's post-Civil War desire for unity, many white Northern clergymen began preaching forgiveness, reconciliation, and unity. They preached this to white Southerners at the expense of justice, even safety for Black Americans, whether they were newly emancipated or already free. Some preachers, notably the famous Henry Ward Beecher, who hung out with the Unitarians, he was a Congregationalist, literally encouraged white Northerners to ignore abuse committed by white Southerners to Black Americans in the name of unity. This country, as we know, has never reckoned with that abuse and continues to live to this day in constantly new and insidious forms of it, baked right into our culture. Other countries, as we know, found ways to name the harm that they had done on behalf of others, truth and reconciliation, commissions, all sorts of ways that brought people together. So can you see how these forces get in the way of the accountability needed for real relational repair, both nationally and then baked right into our close relationships? We just haven't had the practices. We haven't seen it. We've seen the say you're sorry and move on. Without healthy practices, we've been left with sanguine apologies. And then what I'm seeing happening now is, fed up with centuries of abuse, we have cancel culture, neither of which provide real repair to relationship. So when I'm in need of relational repair, I turn to the teachings of Judaism as my guide. It may go without saying, but I want to be sure to distinguish between Jewish teachings and the current genocidal actions of the State of Israel. I believe that the teachings have merits and pray that the leaders in the State of Israel anchor themselves again in their rich tradition, which has a history of inviting dialogue and seeking repair of broken relationships. That's not happening now, and we know that. But let's take a look at some of these Jewish teachings. As a guest essayist in the New York Times, Rabbi Sharon Brous wrote this: buried deep in the Mishnah, a Jewish legal compendium written around the 3rd century, is an ancient practice. It describes a pilgrimage ritual from the time of the Second Temple. Several times each year, hundreds and thousands of Jews would ascend to Jerusalem, the center of Jewish religious and political life. They would climb the steps of the Temple Mount and enter its enormous plaza en masse, circling clockwise. Meanwhile, some others who may have been broken-hearted or mourners or lonely or sick themselves would make this same ritual walk, but they would turn to the left and circle in the opposite direction. So they were going step by step across the current. And each one who was walking clockwise to the right, who encountered someone in pain, would look into that person's eyes and inquire, "What happened to you? Why does your heart ache?" "My father died," a person might say, or perhaps "my partner left. I was completely surprised by that. I'm still in shock." Or "my child is sick and we're waiting the results." Those who walked around the right would offer a blessing. "May the Holy One comfort you," they might say. "You are not alone." And they would continue to walk until they approached the next person. But among them, among the people who walked to the left, among the mournful, the sick, were also people who in Hebrew were called the Menedua. Menudei. And they were the ostracized in the community. Ostracism was a punishment used only sparingly in ancient times, and it only applied to people who were believed to have brought serious harm to the social fabric of the community. They were essentially temporarily excommunicated. They had to distance themselves from their colleagues and loved ones. They were not counted in the prayer quorum, and they were prohibited from engaging in most social interactions. But they were invited into this sacred ritual, and they walked to the left, and they were greeted by people who would say, "What happened? Tell me your story." And then they too were blessed. Now, this ritual didn't forgive or make any pains go away. The point of this ritual was that within community, there are always those who are stronger and always those who are in pain, always those who have been harmed and always those who have harmed others. In any given moment, at any given time, you don't know who would be walking to the right and who would be walking to the left. And still, it is our job to remain in community, to be with one another open-heartedly and curious and full of love. Judaism has some other secular lessons on repair. Rabbi Danya Ruttenberg, in her book on repentance and repair, takes a deep dive into the work of Maimonides, a 12th century philosopher and scholar of Jewish law. He offers us not 5 simple words, but 5 simple steps for honest repair and renewal in relationships. This book was a UU Common Read for this year, and I highly recommend it. I certainly wish I'd read it while my children were young and in the house. So, according to Maimonides, a person does not just mess up, mumble "I'm sorry," and get on with it. They're not entitled to forgiveness if they haven't done the work of repair. And forgiveness is not a given, no matter what. Because if we make forgiveness a requirement, then what we're doing is placing the work on the person who has been harmed. The person who has been harmed retains choice, and that is super important. No one has to forgive someone who has harmed them. But you are required to listen to what that person has to say. So here's the steps. The first step, if you have harmed someone, is confession, not apology, confession. Naming the harm you caused, owning it fully, without talking about your intentions and the context, just, "I did it. I harmed you." And ideally, Maimonides says, is doing it publicly. Because this first act validates to the person you have harmed that this has really happened. The second, we haven't apologized yet, the second is starting to change. Doing something about yourself, if you have harmed somebody, that shows you want to make a shift. So perhaps if your harm is connected to an addiction, you might choose a recovery program. Perhaps if your harm is connected to anger, lashing out at people, you might find your way into therapy or get a good exercise plan or something that is showing that you are willing to make a change yourself. The third, he says, is repair. And the repair is based on what the harmed person requires. Buying a person a new car who has enough money to buy their car again after you've hit it may not be the repair that person needs. They might need something completely different from you. So the question, if you have harmed somebody, is what will make this right for the person you have harmed? Then comes apology. So first there's confession, then there's making some internal shifts, then the repair, and then apology. So that by the time you are in front of a person ready to apologize, they've seen you do your work. you're owning it. In an apology, you are saying to them, I see you as another human being that I have caused harm to, and I am full of remorse. I have a sad heart, and I need to communicate this to you because it's causing me pain to know what I have done. Now, as I said, forgiveness is not guaranteed. And in the Jewish tradition, if you do not receive forgiveness, you go back and you bring an accountability team with you. I don't think they called it that back then. But you bring an accountability team with you and you try again. And if you're not forgiven the second time, you might go back to your team and say, what am I missing here? What was going on that they couldn't see what was my full remorse. And after you've tried a few times, then you've done what you can, and you have to let it go if you're not forgiven. Excuse me. And there's still one more step after that. This is not a one and done process. The final step for real transformation is making different choices. When this situation comes up again, you choose something different. When the situation comes up with your neighbor that you're so mad again about the leaves that keep falling on your yard and they don't want to take any responsibility for it, you choose something different. You choose not to go over and chew them out. You choose something different for yourself. Then and only then do you know that the transformation has happened and you are different. You have changed by acknowledging the harm you have done. With all the brokenness around us, in our families, in our communities, and in the world at large, learning the skills of repair and reconciliation seem imperative to our survival. Unless we want to live hunched over, unable to look each other in the eye, we have to get beyond what is keeping us from having relationships of real honesty with one another, having relationships where when we mess up, we're able to say, I messed up. And having relationships where we turn to each other with curiosity and love again and again and again. May it be so.
So together we will move through one of the few rituals of forgiveness that we have in our tradition. It was written by a UU minister, Rob Eller Isaacs, who was also a teacher and a mentor to hundreds of young UU clergy across the country, who passed away, I believe, last summer around this time. And in creating this ritual, Rob Eller Isaacs was inspired by his own Jewish heritage and these rituals of naming the places where we may have caused harm. So just as Reverend Lydia said in the sermon, it's not that we're going to sing the song and magically be forgiven of all the wrongs that we have caused. But the purpose, I think, of singing through this and of absorbing the prompts about ways that we may have harmed others is to serve almost as an inventory, to help us think, could I have done differently? Could I have created harm that I wasn't aware of? Could I be responsible for hurting others in ways that I need to be accountable for? So I'll invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we sing through the ritual. We're really going to take our time, and I'm going to read the liturgy slowly so that you can absorb the ideas in between our sung response. And I'll try to make it really clear when it's your turn to sing. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that our own fears have made us rigid and inaccessible, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For the selfishness we hold that sets us apart and keeps us alone, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit, knowing the right thing to do, but refusing to move. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For losing sight of our unity, clutching to those things that keep us separate instead of holding on to our interdependence. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
As we have done in years past, during the summer months, we suspend our Share Our Plate program. For the summer months, the proceeds from our plate collection will support the programs and ministries of UUCB. We will resume sharing our plate in September. I invite you to give as generously as you are able. For those online, you can use the QR code or find a link in the video description. For those gathered in person, you can scan the QR code or make a donation as the ushers now pass the baskets. May our gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace and love to the Boulder community.
Beloved UU Church of Boulder, in these polarized times, you all have the ingredients to bring people together, to show love and curiosity, to lift your bodies and gaze into each other's eyes, wanting to engage in real, beautiful conversation. You have the capacity as well to hurt and to harm. And when you do, come back into relationship. Love one another, remain curious, and go out and do that in the world. Blessed be. Amen.
Please rise in body or in spirit as we close our service in song. If you feel comfortable, you may reach out and grab hands with a neighbor. If you'd rather not make contact, you can keep your hands to yourself or look down.
then you